Hello everyone, enjoy this relaxing moment with Surly Tales. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe and share your thoughts in comments while you watch. In the bustling metropolis of Lagos, where skyscrapers pierced the heavens and the streets hummed with relentless energy, Don Chukwuma was a name that commanded respect and awe. Known simply as Don to those who moved within the corridors of wealth and power, he was a man who had risen from modest beginnings to become one of the richest and most influential figures in Africa. Don's empire, Chukwuma Group International, was a behemoth that dominated industries like oil and gas, telecommunications, and real estate. His story was the stuff of legends. A young man from Enugu who, armed with nothing but ambition and grit, built a fortune that spanned continents. By the time he turned 40, he was already a billionaire. By 67, he was a household name. Despite his intimidating exterior, a towering frame, piercing eyes, and a stern demeanor, Don was deeply devoted to his family. His wife, Ada, was his confidant and rock, the one person who could temper his fiery drive with her calm wisdom. She had been with him through every high and low, from the early days of their marriage when they shared a tiny apartment, to the present, where their mansion in Banana Island was a symbol of unimaginable wealth. Ada was the epitome of elegance and grace. While Don focused on building his empire, Ada ensured their home was a sanctuary of love and values. Together, they raised their only child, Cherish, in the lap of luxury, yet with a grounding that set her apart from the typical children of the elite. Cherish was the apple of Don's eye, his pride and joy. From the moment she was born, Don was determined to give her the world. She attended the best schools, traveled to the most exotic locations, and had every privilege money could buy. But Cherish wasn't spoiled or entitled. She was thoughtful and kind, traits she inherited from her mother. Now in her late 20s, Cherish was a striking young woman with a sharp mind and a compassionate heart. But despite her many qualities, there was one thing that unsettled her father: she was unmarried. Don had always believed in the importance of legacy. To him, marriage was not just a union of two individuals but a strategic alliance, a way to strengthen family bonds and secure the future. Watching Cherish remain single as she neared 30 made him restless. "Cherish, my dear," Don began one evening as they sat in his opulent study, the room filled with the scent of polished mahogany and aged leather. "You know I only want what's best for you." "I know, Daddy," Cherish replied, bracing herself for what she knew was coming. "You're not getting any younger. It's time we start thinking seriously about your future. Marriage is important, not just for you but for our family." Cherish sighed. This was a conversation they had had many times before. "Daddy, I understand, but I don't want to marry someone just because it looks good on paper. I want love, not a business deal." Don frowned. "Love is important, yes, but compatibility and shared values matter more. I've spoken to some of my colleagues, and there are a few fine young men I'd like you to meet. Trust me, they come from good families." Cherish's heart sank. She had no interest in being paraded before the sons of her father's billionaire friends, men who, in her experience, were more interested in her family's wealth than in her as a person. Despite her protests, Don arranged a series of dinner dates. The first was with Chuka, the son of a shipping magnate. Handsome and impeccably dressed, Chuka spent the entire evening boasting about his latest yacht and dropping hints about his father's influence in the political sphere. Cherish forced a polite smile but felt a growing irritation with every word he spoke. The second date was no better. Kelechi, the son of a real estate tycoon, arrived late and spent the meal scrolling through his phone. When he did engage, his questions revolved around her father's business dealings rather than her interests or aspirations. After each failed attempt, Don grew more insistent. "You're being too picky, Cherish. These are good men with bright futures." "Good men?" Cherish retorted one evening. "They're not interested in me, Daddy. They're interested in what I represent, your money, your power. Is that what you want for me?" Don was taken aback by her outburst. "I only want you to be happy, Cherish." "Then let me find happiness my way," she replied, her voice trembling with frustration. But Don couldn't let go of the idea that he needed to intervene. To him, Cherish's reluctance was a sign of naivety. He believed it was his duty to guide her, to protect her from making a mistake that could tarnish the family's reputation. As the pressure mounted, Cherish felt trapped. Her father's well-intentioned efforts had become a source of stress and resentment. She confided in her mother, who, as always, offered words of comfort. "Your father means well, my dear," Ada said gently. "But you must find your own path. He'll come to understand in time." Cherish nodded, but she wasn't sure how much longer she could endure the relentless matchmaking. One night, as she lay in her luxurious bedroom staring at the crystal chandelier above her, a radical thought entered her mind. She needed to leave. Not permanently, but long enough to escape the suffocating expectations that came with being Don Chukwuma's daughter. She craved anonymity, a chance to live a life free of wealth and its burdens, even if only for a little while. With her mind made up, she began to plan her escape. The night was still when Cherish made her move. The vast, sprawling mansion on Banana Island was enveloped in silence, save for the distant hum of the lagoon beyond its gates. Cherish had spent weeks carefully preparing for this moment. She knew her family staff was diligent, but she also knew their routines. Timing was everything. She packed a small backpack with a few essential items: plain clothes, comfortable shoes, her identification, and the little cash she had secretly saved over time. She left behind her designer wardrobe, jewelry, and the custom phone her father had gifted her, anything that could tie her back to her family's wealth. Taking a deep breath, she scribbled a short note and left it on her nightstand. "I need some time to discover myself. Please don't worry about me. I'll be safe." With one final glance around the room that had been her sanctuary for so many years, Cherish slipped out through the back garden and into the shadowy streets of Lagos. She hailed a cab and gave the driver vague directions to the city's outskirts, choosing her words carefully to avoid suspicion. "Madam, you sure say you want go this cane area?" the cab driver asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "Yes," Cherish said firmly, masking her apprehension. Her destination was Ajala, a small but lively community on the outskirts of Lagos. It was a stark contrast to the world she had always known. The roads were uneven, the buildings modest, and the air filled with the sounds of bustling markets, blaring car horns, and the chatter of children playing in the dusty streets. For the first time in her life, Cherish felt invisible. No one turned to gawk at her or whispered about her family name. Here, she was just another face in the crowd, and it was exhilarating. But the initial euphoria of freedom soon gave way to the harsh realities of survival. Cherish had no clear plan other than finding a job and living as an ordinary person. She began knocking on doors and visiting small businesses, asking for work. "Sorry, we no day hire," one shopkeeper told her with a dismissive wave. "You want do dis cane work?" another man asked skeptically, eyeing her soft hands and neatly pressed clothes. She tried farms, market stalls, and even small tailoring shops, but her lack of experience and delicate appearance worked against her. By the third day, she was exhausted, hungry, and demoralized. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon on her fourth day in Ajala, she stumbled upon a small, bustling restaurant called Mama Ijebu's Kitchen. The tantalizing aroma of jollof rice and fried plantains wafted through the air, drawing her inside. The restaurant was modest but lively, with wooden tables and benches filled with customers. Behind the counter stood a stout woman with a colorful head wrap and a commanding presence. This was Mama Ijebu, the matriarch of the establishment. Cherish approached her hesitantly. "Good evening, ma. Are you hiring?" Mama Ijebu turned to her, eyebrows raised. "Hiring? Wetin you sabi do?" "I can learn," Cherish said earnestly. "I'm a hard worker." Mama Ijebu scrutinized her for a long moment, her sharp eyes taking in Cherish's clean nails and refined demeanor. "You want work here? Dis work no be for fine girl, oh, nah, real work. You go fit wash plate, mop floor, serve customer?" Cherish nodded firmly. "I'll do anything." Something in her voice must have convinced Mama Ijebu. "But wear this," she said, handing Cherish an apron. "If you mess up, na your wallow." Cherish's first day at Mama Ijebu's was chaotic. The restaurant was a hive of activity, with orders flying in from every direction. Cherish struggled to keep up. She spilled soup on a customer, mixed up orders, and almost slipped on the wet floor. The other staff, particularly a sharp-tongued young woman named Nma, were quick to mock her. "See this one," Nma said, smirking as Cherish fumbled with a tray. "She no fit even carry plate well. Na place she thinks say we day here." Cherish swallowed her pride and focused on improving. Each mistake became a lesson, and by the end of the week, she was starting to find her rhythm. Mama Ijebu, though stern, noticed her determination and began to offer words of encouragement. "You day try, small madam," Mama Ijebu said one evening as they cleaned up. "No worry, you go get am." For Cherish, these words were a balm to her weary spirit. She worked harder, determined to prove herself not just to Mama Ijebu but to herself. Life in Ajala was challenging but liberating. Cherish began to feel a sense of pride in earning her own way, even if it was through menial work. She woke up early every morning, tied her hair back, and walked the dusty streets to the restaurant. She found herself growing attached to the community. The laughter of children playing by the roadside, the warmth of neighbors who shared greetings, and the simplicity of life in Ajala brought her a kind of peace she had never known. For the first time, Cherish felt like she was discovering who she truly was, not Don Chukwuma's daughter, but simply Cherish. But life in Ajala was not without its challenges. Nma, her co-worker, seemed determined to make her life difficult. From petty remarks to deliberately sabotaging her work, Nma left no stone unturned in her efforts to frustrate Cherish. Cherish tried to rise above it, ignoring the taunts and focusing on her duties. But she knew it was only a matter of time before her patience wore thin. In this new chapter of her life, Cherish was learning that freedom came with its own set of struggles. But for the first time, she felt ready to face them head-on. The days at Mama Ijebu's restaurant were long and grueling, but Cherish found a rhythm within the chaos. Each morning, the aroma of freshly fried akra greeted her as she tied her apron and prepared for the breakfast rush. Customers poured in at all hours, filling the small wooden tables and benches, laughing, arguing, and ordering plate after plate of steaming jollof rice, egusi soup, and peppered goat meat. At first, Cherish felt like a fish out of water. She stumbled through tasks that came naturally to the other workers. Carrying trays was a challenge, taking orders left her flustered, and her delicate hands blistered from constant scrubbing. Mistakes were inevitable, and Nma, the sharp-tongued waitress, never missed an opportunity to point them out. "Cherish, a beg carry yourself well. You no fit carry ordinary plate without spilling?" Nma snapped one afternoon after Cherish spilled pepper soup on a table. Cherish bit her tongue, swallowing the retort that threatened to escape. She wasn't here to make enemies, and she wasn't about to let someone like Nma get the better of her. She focused on learning, observing how Mama Ijebu expertly managed the chaos of the kitchen and watching the other workers' techniques. Mama Ijebu, though stern, was surprisingly patient with Cherish. "You day try," she would say in her thick, motherly voice. "But you go need grow thicker skin. Dis work no be for soft hand." By the end of her first month, Cherish had become a completely different person. Her once manicured nails were short and chipped, her movements were quicker and more efficient, and she knew how to handle even the most demanding customers with a calm smile. The regulars began to notice her transformation. "Ah, dis your new girl sabi work now oh," one customer remarked to Mama Ijebu as Cherish skillfully carried a tray of drinks to a table. Mama Ijebu grinned. "I tell you say she go learn. Not only patience she need." But not everyone was impressed. Nma continued to go out of her way to frustrate Cherish, often criticizing her for things that weren't her fault. One day, when Cherish accidentally dropped a bowl of fufu, Nma's mocking laughter was the last straw. Cherish turned to her, her eyes blazing with anger. "Nma, if you don't have anything helpful to say, maybe you should focus on your own work instead of trying to tear others down." The restaurant fell silent. Even Mama Ijebu paused, her ladle midair. Nma opened her mouth to respond, but the determination in Cherish's eyes made her think twice. From that day on, something shifted. Nma's hostility softened, and while they didn't become immediate friends, a grudging respect began to form between them. Eventually, they started working together more seamlessly, and the tension between them eased. As Cherish grew more comfortable in her role, she also grew closer to Mama Ijebu. The older woman had a no-nonsense attitude but a heart of gold, and Cherish began to see her as a mentor. Mama Ijebu often shared stories about her struggles as a single mother and how she built her business from scratch. "Life no day easy for anybody, my dear," Mama Ijebu said one evening as they cleaned up after a long day. "But if you get strong heart and work hard, you go survive anything." These conversations gave Cherish a new perspective on life. She had always admired her father's success, but Mama Ijebu's story reminded her that there were different kinds of strength and resilience. One afternoon, while Cherish was taking orders, a young man walked into the restaurant. He was tall, with broad shoulders and an easy smile, but what caught Cherish's attention were the oil stains on his shirt and the confident way he carried himself. He sat at a corner table and waved her over. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice deep and warm. "Can I get a plate of jollof rice with fried fish?" Cherish nodded, scribbling down his order. As she turned to leave, he called out, "Wait, what's your name?" She hesitated for a moment before replying, "Cherish?" "Cherish," he repeated, his smile widening. "Nice name. I'm Uzo." That day marked the beginning of something unexpected. Uzo became a regular at the restaurant, and each time he visited, he made a point of sitting in Cherish's section. Their conversation started casually, with Uzo teasing her about her serious demeanor and Cherish rolling her eyes at his jokes. But over time, their bond deepened. Uzo was a mechanic who owned a small shop in the community. He wasn't wealthy, but he was hardworking and passionate about his craft. He often spoke about his dreams of expanding his business and providing better opportunities for the apprentices he trained. "You're different," Uzo said one day as they sat outside the restaurant during her break. "How so?" Cherish asked, raising an eyebrow. "You don't belong here," he said, gesturing to the dusty streets of Ajala. "Not that it's a bad thing. It's just, there's something about you. Like you're used to a different kind of life." Cherish's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she feared he had figured out her secret. But Uzo didn't press further, and she relaxed, grateful for his discretion. As weeks turned into months, Cherish found herself looking forward to Uzo's visits. He had a way of making her laugh, even on the most stressful days, and his kindness reminded her of the warmth she had been searching for. For the first time in a long while, Cherish felt like she was truly living, not as Don Chukwuma's daughter, but as herself. Still, she couldn't ignore the voice in the back of her mind that reminded her of the life she had left behind. Sooner or later, she would have to face her family again. But for now, she chose to focus on the present, embracing the simplicity and authenticity of her new life. Little did she know, her journey in Ajala was just beginning, and her connection with Uzo would lead her to a path she never expected. The community of Ajala had grown accustomed to Cherish, who by now was simply one of them. Her transformation from the delicate, unsure girl who had first walked into Mama Ijebu's restaurant was remarkable. She had built a life of routine and simplicity, far from the extravagant halls of her father's mansion. Yet, as content as she was, her heart fluttered in a new way every time Uzo walked through the door. Uzo's presence in the restaurant had become a constant. His confident stride, grease-stained shirts, and warm smile made him impossible to ignore. For someone who lived a simple life as a mechanic, his wit and charm rivaled those of the polished men Cherish had encountered in her father's world. But Uzo was different, authentic and unpretentious. One breezy afternoon, as Cherish was tidying up a table, Uzo strolled into the restaurant, his smile bright despite the smudges of oil on his face. "Cherish," he said, settling into his usual spot. "I need you to rescue me today. The jollof rice better be extra spicy." Cherish laughed, jotting down his order. "Rough day at the shop? Let's just say when you're dealing with engines older than your grandmother, every day is rough," Uzo replied, leaning back in his chair. Cherish brought him his food, and as he ate, their conversation drifted from playful banter to more personal topics. "Cherish, you've been here for months now," Uzo began, his tone serious. "But you never talk about where you're from or what brought you here." Cherish hesitated, fiddling with the edge of her apron. "Let's just say I needed a change. My old life didn't feel real anymore." Uzo studied her, his expression thoughtful. "Well, whatever brought you here, I'm glad it did." Their connection deepened with each passing week. Uzo began to stay after his meals, waiting for Cherish's break so they could talk. He shared stories of his childhood, his struggles to build his business, and his dreams for the future. "I want to open a bigger workshop," Uzo said one evening, his eyes alight with ambition. "Somewhere where I can train more apprentices and create opportunities for young men in this community." Cherish admired his determination. "That's a beautiful dream," she said softly. "And I have no doubt you'll make it happen." For the first time in her life, Cherish felt seen, not as a billionaire's daughter, not as a figure of privilege, but as herself. Uzo's sincerity and drive resonated with her, and she found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't with anyone else. One night, after the restaurant had closed, Uzo waited for Cherish outside. The moon was high, casting a silver glow over the dusty streets. "Cherish," he said, his voice steady but nervous, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." Cherish's heart raced. "What is it?" "I've been coming here for months, not just because of the food, which, by the way, is amazing," he added with a grin, "but because of you. You've become the best part of my day, and He paused, taking a deep breath. "I think I'm falling for you." Cherish's breath caught. She had sensed Uzo's feelings for some time, but hearing him say the words left her stunned. For a moment, she said nothing, her mind swirling with emotions. Finally, she looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Uzo, I don't know what to say. I feel the same, but there's so much about me you don't know." "Then tell me," he said earnestly. "Whatever it is, it won't change how I feel." Cherish smiled, a mix of relief and nervousness. "Let's take things one step at a time." Their relationship blossomed in the weeks that followed. They spent their evenings walking through the streets of Ajala, talking about their dreams and fears. Uzo showed Cherish his workshop, a small but bustling space filled with tools and eager apprentices. "This is where the magic happens," he said with a proud smile. Cherish marveled at his skill and dedication. She had always admired hard-working people, and Uzo embodied the kind of resilience and authenticity she had come to value. But as their bond grew stronger, so did Cherish's awareness of the secret she was keeping. She knew she couldn't hide her true identity forever, especially if their relationship became serious. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking a quiet part of the community, Uzo turned to her. "Cherish, I want to spend the rest of my life with you," he said, taking her hand in his. "Will you marry me?" Cherish's heart soared and sank at the same time. She loved Uzo deeply, but the thought of revealing her true identity filled her with dread. Still, she couldn't deny her feelings any longer. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The next day, Cherish knew it was time to face her family. She hadn't contacted them since her departure, but she couldn't move forward without their blessing. With Uzo by her side, she prepared to return to Banana Island and confront the life she had left behind. As they boarded a taxi to her family's mansion, Cherish felt a mixture of fear and hope. She had found love in the most unexpected place, and now she would have to fight to hold on to it. The journey back was silent but charged with anticipation. Uzo held her hand, offering her silent reassurance. When they finally arrived at the towering gates of the Chukwuma estate, Cherish took a deep breath. It was time to bridge the gap between her past and her present, and she hoped her parents would accept the man she had chosen to share her future with. The gates of the Chukwuma mansion loomed ahead like sentinels guarding a fortress of luxury. Cherish had walked out of these gates months ago, searching for freedom and a sense of identity. Now she was returning, not as the privileged heiress of Don Chukwuma, but as a woman who had found herself in a small, bustling community, and in the arms of a man she truly loved. Uzo, standing beside her in his simple yet neat attire, squeezed her hand reassuringly. "No matter what happens, I'm here with you," he said softly. Cherish nodded, mustering her courage. She pressed the intercom button, and a familiar voice crackled through the speaker. "Yes, who is there?" "It's me, Cherish," she said. There was a pause, and then a startled, "Cherish? Small madam? You've come back. Let me open the gate." The iron gates creaked open, revealing the sprawling compound she had once called home. As they walked up the driveway, Cherish spotted her parents standing on the grand steps of the mansion. Don Chukwuma's face was a mix of relief and frustration, while Ada's expression was softened by tears of joy. "Cherish," Ada exclaimed, rushing forward to embrace her daughter. "Where have you been? We were so worried." Cherish clung to her mother, the familiar scent of her perfume bringing a wave of nostalgia. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered. Don Chukwuma stood a few feet away, his arms crossed and his face stern. "Cherish, do you have any idea what you put us through?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "I do, Papa," Cherish said, stepping forward. "But I had to leave. I needed to find myself, to live outside the shadow of this house and your name." Don's gaze softened slightly, but his eyes shifted to Uzo, who stood quietly by Cherish's side. "And who is this?" "This is Uzo," Cherish said, her voice steady. "He's the man I've chosen to marry." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Don's brows furrowed, his sharp gaze assessing Uzo from head to toe. "A mechanic," he said finally, his tone neutral but skeptical. "Yes, sir," Uzo replied, meeting Don's gaze without flinching. "I own a small shop in Ajala, and I've worked hard to build my business from the ground up. I may not have much, but I love your daughter and will do everything to make her happy." Don's expression didn't change, but Ada stepped in, her voice gentle but firm. "Cherish has made her choice, Don. Shouldn't we be happy that she's found someone who truly cares for her?" Don sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. "This isn't what I envisioned for my daughter," he admitted. "But I can see that she's serious about you, Uzo. I'll accept this, on one condition." "What condition?" Cherish asked, her heart pounding. "Prove to me that you can take care of her," Don said, looking directly at Uzo. "Build your business, show me that you're capable, and I'll give you my blessing." Uzo nodded confidently. "I accept your challenge, sir. I will prove myself." The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity as Uzo and Cherish prepared for their wedding. With her parents' reluctant blessing, Cherish moved back into the mansion temporarily, but she insisted on maintaining her independence. Don, despite his initial reservations, began to see Uzo's dedication and determination. Uzo often visited the mansion to discuss his business plans with Don, and though their conversations were sometimes tense, they developed a mutual respect. Ada, on the other hand, embraced Uzo wholeheartedly. She often spoke to Cherish about her admiration for his humility and work ethic. The wedding day arrived, and the Chukwuma estate was transformed into a celebration of love and unity. The ceremony blended traditional Igbo customs with modern elegance, reflecting both Cherish's roots and her journey. Cherish looked radiant in her lace-adorned attire, while Uzo, in his richly embroidered agbada, stood proudly beside her. The community from Ajala, including Mama Ijebu and even Ma, joined the celebration, mingling with the Chukwuma family's high-profile guests. As the couple exchanged vows, Cherish felt a sense of peace and fulfillment she had never known. She had found her place in the world, not through wealth or status, but through love, hard work, and the courage to follow her heart. After the wedding, Don pulled Uzo aside. "You've earned my respect," he said, his voice gruff but sincere. "Take care of my daughter, and remember, our family stands with you." "Thank you, sir," Uzo replied, his gratitude evident. Cherish watched the exchange from a distance, her heart swelling with pride. She had brought two worlds together, her past and her present, and created something beautiful. As the sun set over the Chukwuma estate, the newlyweds stood hand in hand, gazing out at the horizon. "What now?" Uzo asked, his voice filled with wonder. "Now," Cherish said with a smile, "we build our future, one day at a time." Their journey had been anything but ordinary, but it was theirs, a story of love, resilience, and finding meaning in the simplest of things. Together, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.